So we are just a few weeks away from the release of Ghost of Tsushima, by far my most anticipated game of 2020 at the very least for this summer, and I cannot wait to play it when it releases on July 17. Of course, we already know that the game has gone gold a while ago, which very likely means that there isn't going to be another delay, hopefully, but there's also some brand new gameplay footage that looks very exciting, and I want to break down all of that in this video. We have some brand new footage of Jin walking into one of these towns that looks to be really rich, but there's also a vendor right there that does an upgrade for one of his bows. I want to dissect everything that UI interface includes, but there's also some brand new information and footage on how combat works, and we also have some juicy details on that as well. So you know what, if you are also as excited as I am for Ghost of Tsushima, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with everything related to Ghost of Tsushima, and let's jump right into it. Nonetheless, let's begin with this footage right here. We can see that Jin is walking into one of these towns and he's going straight to one of these bow vendors that deals with upgrades for his half bow in this case, apparently the only one that he has equipped upon himself. Now I will say that I'm liking the slick UI, it definitely looks very comprehensive. We have the half bow level 2 at the top, it seems that it's level 2 out of 5, though the arrows might indicate that there's additional levels on top of that as well. But underneath we have all of those stats. I will say again that I'm impressed by the number of stats that just one weapon has. It has weapon damage, draw speed, range, stability, reload speed, and even zoom. And I'm really curious if this is just particular to this half bow right here, or is it specific to all of the half bows in the game. I'm pretty sure that different half bows and different weapons will have different kinds of stat priorities. In this case, it seems that this prioritizes draw speed, damage, and reload speed over everything else, and there might be something that's completely opposite of this, like something that has really good range, stability, and zoom, kinda like a sniper weapon, but has lower damage. Remains to be seen. We already know that there's different ways to get different weapons, but of course in order to upgrade them you will need these resources right here at the bottom. So just the upgrade from level 2 to level 3 half bow costs 150 supplies and 25 bamboo. We already know that bamboo is quite abundant on the island, you can grab it on foot or on horseback, it's pretty much all over the place, but the supplies is something that you get only from specific places. We saw the previous state of play showcasing this abandoned house and Jin was able to pick up about 13 supplies, so it's very likely that we are going to have to do a little bit of exploration if we want to further upgrade our weapons and character, and I'm glad that exploration is rewarding and it's worth it to do in a game like this. But it does look that the stats also get to be influenced, though I'm not sure by how much, because it doesn't go into the next screen and it basically skips from over there. But otherwise I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing so far. It looks slick and intuitive, and I do enjoy something like this. Now in terms of the vendors themselves, we already have previous confirmation that vendors are all over the world and you can find them in these hubs, or well, towns. They are basically towns and villages that you can go in and you're going to find various types of vendors. Some of them you can trade with and they might sell you goods, you can also sell stuff to them and make some money, but we can also have these vendors for each specific weapon. We had one for the bow, but there's very likely some for your katana, maybe even for the different types of bows and other types of weapons and tools that we might get to use. Nonetheless, let's also go over some of the combat that has just been shown, and I want to specifically start with this footage right here that again looks amazing. We have two warriors against Jin, each wearing one shield and one sword. We can already see that some of the visual indicators have been changed, including the heavy hitter right here that's indicated with that red pulse, which is way more visible than what we saw in the state of play. It's basically the one that you're going to want to pay close attention to if you want to avoid and dodge from incoming damage. But there's an additional one, which is the shield break that appears on top of the enemy, pretty much on top of his head. So against these types of enemies we are going to want to use that water stance. That's going to give us an advantage. In that water stance we can do a shield break against enemies that keep guarding themselves with the shields. That's going to be visually indicated on top of their head, and from that point on it's basically hack and slash. You just slash the enemy. We can again see how beautiful these animations are and how damaging that sword really is, but we can also see, and the next one pretty much goes the same. It also goes the same, and You can see him breaking his shield. There's also like this shockwave effect, which seems very satisfying, immediately followed by a cross slash, and it's game over. It just is game over, and it looks all around amazing. And finally, of course, let's also go over this one. We can see different types of combat styles against multiple types of enemies. Like some of them were spears, some of them were shields, some of them are just like regular weapons, like 2 one-handers in each hand. And as it's obvious, enemies aren't going to wait too much for you to do your attacks or wait for you to parry. They are even going to attack you at almost the same time sometimes. So you're going to have to be on your toes in these kinds of situations. Of course, we can see Jin that he's being striked in the back since he wasn't dodging or anything, and then later on he has to kind of fall back and regroup since yeah, he isn't going to be able to take all of that. But later on we can also see him using his healing ability. This is the first time we can see him using that ability. It of course costs one of those yellow orbs, the resolve meter as it's called, and this heals him for about 25% of his HP. I'm pretty sure that that can be upgraded to further increase the healing amount that's given by this type of skill. Anyway, on a final note, we also have this PlayStation blog article on the sword fighting and like pretty much everything in the world of Ghost of Tsushima, and it just goes into detail about how much emphasis Sucker Punch has put into the sword play. They're basically focusing on 3 things when it comes to the sword play in Ghost of Tsushima, which are speed, sharpness, and precision. To the point they have even mentioned that they actually calculated the time that each human being needs to react to an incoming attack and pretty much any visual stimulus, and they basically played around this in order to make the combat feel both grounded in reality but also very fun, since reality oftentimes can be messy when it comes to sword fighting and whatnot. It's not like all cinematic like how we see it in movies, they have explained in the article. So we realized that while there's a limit to how fast players can react, there's no limit to how fast they can anticipate. If an enemy launches into an attack string, we need to give the player enough time to react to the first attack in the string, but since subsequent attacks can be anticipated, they can happen arbitrarily faster. One of our Mongols uses a 5-hit combo, for instance. The first attack is slow enough to react to it, but the others happen fast, which would mean that you're gonna be able to react better to the subsequent attacks in the chain, and it should also make the combat much more fun, but also kinda skill based as well. They also did the same with the enemies, and when you fight multiple enemies like big groups, you are going to see their attacks overlapping, which means enemies aren't going to just stand by and wait for you to do your movesets and kill one of them and then go for the others. They are basically going to start attacking, wind up their attacks, and hit you all even at the same time or together or very close to one another. But basically this is why you're not going to want to pick off too many enemies at the same time. Otherwise, just like in this footage, you are going to be overwhelmed and you will have to fall back. They also went in and explained a bit about the part with the sharpness of the sword. They really wanted to make the katana feel like it's truly sharp, and in order to be sharp, it should require no more than a few hits to take down enemies. To compensate for enemies dying too quickly and for the combat to feel too imbalanced in your favor, they also made it so that Jin can also die in a few hits. So sharp weapons and aggressive enemies means that death is always nearby. That sense of danger that you're never more than a few mistakes away from dying is crucial to Ghost of Tsushima's tone. Players have plenty of techniques to defend themselves and even more ways to attack. If you concentrate, if you stay focused, you'll survive the fight. If you lose the focus, you'll die. We're trying to put you in Jin Sakai's footsteps. Those are the rules he's forced to live by, and they apply equally to you as well, which sounds really poetic if you think about it. But the last and final focus is of course on that precision, and the katana is a weapon that rewards precision. That starts with responsiveness, making sure that Jin reacts instantly to the player's input. Quick attacks happen quick, we work hard to make our animations fluid, to flow naturally between movements, but if forced to make a choice, responsiveness wins out over physical accuracy. Jin does have slower, more powerful attacks, but according to the article, they can be instantly cancelled at any point, leaving Jin free to respond to unexpected events, like the shout of a Mongol charging in to attack, which honestly sounds quite distinct from Dark Souls, for example, which kinda locks you in the animation of those really hard-hitting attacks that also have like slower animations. Now, blocking incoming incoming attacks is of course also a big part of the combat. Holding L1 on the controller is what blocks incoming attacks, but there's actually more levels to that than you think. So waiting to press L1 until the attack is just about to hit changes the block into a parry. Not only is that going to make the enemy vulnerable to an incoming attack, which means more damage, it also gives some of your resolve back, as you can see from the various footage that we have, but there's also a third level of success that opens up. So pressing L1 just as the attack is landing and the parry becomes a perfect parry that also stuns the attacker and leaves them open up to special devastating counterattacks and earning Jin a big dose of resolve. So yeah, suffice to say that the game looks stunning. Of course the gameplay is even more intriguing now that we have these informations, but of course expect more coverage on Ghost of Tsushima here on this channel in the upcoming weeks, and even more so once the game releases. But this is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.